Guruve Gaurachandaya Dharikaya Tadali Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadavaktaya Namo Namaha Vanchakalpaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. My Dandavat Pranam devotees. So, we are continuing with our question and answer sessions. I got a message from one devotee who talked about the phrase, "You're not the body." And he mentioned how the phrase, "You're not the body," or "Have you realized you're not the body," how it's so commonly used in our Vaishnav Mandal. And he inquired, what does that really mean? Because the sort of common understanding is that a person has realized that they're not the body, meaning they realize that they're the servant of Krishna, that they're the das of Krishna, or that one has realized their spiritual identity, or that one is simply not acting in material consciousness. So there are a variety of kind of meanings which have been associated with the idea of realizing you're not the body. So perhaps to give some perspective to that phrase and to give some more clarity to the definitive position of realizing you're not the body, we want to speak a few things from Guru, Sadhu, and Sastra. Excuse me. So one is that Sri Sanatana Goswami Pad in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu two questions. Kayami, Kenyamai, Jare Tapatrai. Who am I actually, and why am I suffering? The summary answer that was given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really speaks to this whole thing about realizing you're not the body, because it sets the template for what that really is. So Sriman Mahaprabhu's answer obviously was, Jivera Sarup Hoye Krishnera Nitya Dasha Jivera Tatasta Shakti Ved Abed Prakash. So Mahaprabhu told that you are by constitution, the das of Krishna. And the reason that you're experiencing suffering is because you are of the nature of Tatashta Swabhav. So sometimes devotees think, when they hear Tatashta Shakti, they think of it as a region or a place from which the genesis of the jivas have come, and because they've come from this region, they're called Tatashta Jivas. But in Jaiva Dharma, if you read it very closely in the 15th chapter, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is asked the question by Brajanath, can you please explain what is Tatashta Swabhav? So this word Swabhav is very important to understand, because Swabhav means nature. So he's asking the question, what does it mean to be of the nature of Tatashta? Not describing a region and so forth and so on. All of our acharyas have described there's actually no physical locale. There's actually no place which is called Tatashta. Even my Guru Parapadma clearly said that this is a sort of pictorial example which is used. And of course, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in that very same chapter of Jaiva Dharma, he gives many examples to illustrate Tatashta Swabhav by describing pictorial examples, like from the Brihad Aranyakya Upanishad, he describes the nature of a fish that swims from one bank to another. He also gives a description ontologically to explain it of a line of demarcation between land and water. So all of these were examples to point out or try to illustrate what it means to be Tatashta Swabhav. So what does actually Tatashta mean? Tatashta means a Shakti of Bhagavan's called Tatashta Shakti. So, Purasya Shakti Vidvidaiva Shuryate Swabhavati Bhala Gyan Kriyacha. Shri Krishna Bhagavan has unlimited Shaktis, and they're all swabhavically working. It means they're all automatically working in the fulfillment of his own desire. So one of those Shaktis is called Tatashta Shakti. The actual identity of the soul is called Atma. So sometimes they're called Jivatma, because also one Shakti of Bhagavan is called Jiv Shakti. This Jiv Shakti, when it is imbued with Tatashta Swabhav, it is called Tatashta Jivas or Tatashta Shakti Jivas. You understand? So this nature of being Tatashta means it is a position in which the influence of the external or internal energy may exert its influence on the Atma. So that's what it means to be Tatashta Swabhav. Now, in the category of Jiva Tattva, there are only two divisions, Nitya Siddha and Anadi Bada. Anadi Bada means, the word Anadi literally means from time without any beginning, and I have quoted several times from Srimad Bhagavatam, Anadi Avidya Yukta Sha Purusha Shavera Atmanam Swato Na Sambhavanti Anya Gyanatva Ganado Bhavet. This is, I think, 11:22:10, and it describes that the Jiva's connection with avidya, ignorance, is anadi. Anadi avidya yuktasha. Similarly, Jiva Goswami Pad in Bhakti Sandarbha in Anuched 1, he describes anadi paramatatva jnanam samsara bhava maya, that the tatashta jivas, they have been samsara abhav, means they've been, abhav means an absence. There's different kinds of abhav, prag abhav, pradamsha abhav, etc., but here it means prag abhav. It means they are the prior status of having non-existence of paratattva jnana, which means knowledge of their own nature, what to speak of their actual eternal identity. So, because the jivas are anadi bhada, the influence of the material energy from time without any beginning, and you can see in Bhagavad Gita 13:20, and then you look at the commentary, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Pad, he asks and answers this question regarding the anadi yukta of the jiva with prakriti. Understand? Right? Means material energy. So because of that, from anadi kal connection with the material energy, the jivas being of tatashta swabhav have been influenced by the material energy. Therefore, from one karmic iteration to another, the jiva has been awarded through avidya shakti what is called asmita. The word asmi means I am. Right? Just like a very popular prayer to Shrimati Radharani, Tavai na jivami tvaya etc. So asmi means I am. So ita is also a condition. So avidya is giving a identity, asmita, I am something, right? I am someone, right? But in order to give substance to that asmita, it requires the influence of the spiritual or material energy. And in this case, because avidya shakti is awarding the conception asmita, right? And here asmita means I'm something other than what I actually am. Because Jiva Goswami Pad also wrote in Paramatma Sandarbha that the jiva's paramaika seishitva. The word seishitva means it is a energy. Seish means like the remainder. So the last part of the jiva shakti coming from Paramatma is the anadi bhada jiva. And seish also means one who worships. You understand? Like ananta seish. Right? And that which is worshipable is called seishai. Like Gabodakshayi Vishnu, Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, Karanodakshayi Vishnu. So seish worships seishai. You understand? So our position here is another way of couching the term that we are the Nitya Das of Krishna by saying Paramamaika Seishitva. You understand? So the jivas, even being in Tatashta Swabhav, right, and having been influenced by that tatashta swabhav, nature, and being influenced by the material energy or avidya shakti, thinks asmita, I'm something other than the Seish of Bhagavan, I'm something other than the Das of Krishna. Now, in order for there to be some practical function of this idea, a sense of identity has to be given. So then two more features are added. One is called the ahamkara. So ahamkara, we've heard this word many times, and we have, by translation, couched it as false egoism, right? Which is an excellent translation of it. False egoism. Why? Because the ahamkara presents us with a threefold identity that doesn't truly belong to us. So first, even the word aham. If you look everywhere in Sastras, you will see that this term aham is really related to Bhagavan. In Sanskrit, aham means I. But in the context of status in relation of the jiva to Bhagavan, this term aham belongs to Bhagavan. Aham savasya prabhavo. Aham evasham evagri. Right? In Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavan is always saying aham. Aham. I. Bhagavad Gita also, I. You understand? So what is the actual term for the jiva? If Bhagavan says aham, right? And so let me explain why first. Because following this word aham is the word ahamkara. Kara means karana and karta. I am the cause and the doer. So we know now that this term aham can adequately or rightfully be applied to Bhagavan because Krishna is the cause and the doer of everything. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadi Radhe Govinda Sava Karana Karanam. He is truly the cause and the doer of everything. So that nomenclature is apropos to Bhagavan. But the jiva is not appropriate for them because Prakriti Kriyamanani Gunai Kamani Savasha Ahamkara Vimudatma. This idea of ahamkara is vimudatma. It is a bewilderment of the atma under the influence of avidya. Because everything in relation to the jiva and material energy is being carried out by the modes of nature, according to this Bhagavad Gita verse. So the term aham is not really applicable to the jiva. What is applicable to the jiva? Dasosmi. So this word asmi, with the actual definition given by Mahaprabhu Das, the proper nomenclature for the jiva is dasosmi. I am das. You understand? So now, this ahamkara, because it has the feature of making us think we are the karana cause and karta doer, the natural outcome of that is we also think I am bhokta. Bhokta means the enjoyer. If I've created it, caused it, and I am the doer or controller of it, I am automatically, organically the natural enjoyer of it. You understand? So this mentality then is the covering of asmita, the false sense of being that's provided by avidya, and then in any particular karmic iteration from one life to another, we receive a particular upadi. The word upadi means a particular designation. That means born in a particular family, in a particular place, in a particular culture, in a particular social status, etc., etc. Right? It's mentioned in the third canto of Bhagavatam, karmana dhaivanana trena janto dehopapatye. By karma and dhaivana trena means by destiny, we receive a particular, specific material identity with a particular family, a particular name, a particular situation. Right? So this is called upadi. So one of the definitions of pure bhakti, therefore, is sarva upadi vinaya muktam, to become free from any of these upadis which are garnered from our association with the material energy. So three things. Let's go over it again. Asmita, which is offered by the avidya shakti. The ahamkara is the functioning element of this idea of asmita. And the upadi is the particular material designation from one karmic iteration to another. Because of this influence of the ahamkara, the jiva also has firm conviction that I am this identity. And the functioning expression of that identity is the material body that you have. So the jiva has a firm conviction that I am this body, and the jiva has no ability to break it. You understand? So the other features of avidya, let me explain them, and this will help to clarify it. Avidya, first of all, means lack of vidya or knowledge about my actual nature. Asmita is the secondary implication of that. I've already explained how asmita works. Then a duality arises, because in the actual Atma, there is no misery. Jiva Goswami described Chit Ananda Atmaka in Paramatma Sandarbha, and he described it Dukkha Pratyogita. It means that in the Atma itself there is no misery. But under the auspices of avidya, then asmita, then rag and dvesh. So rag means the pursuit of the nature of being happy and looking for that nature within everything we come in contact with. But remember, all of the contacts we're having in the material arena are based in the conception of false egoism. So we think we're the enjoyer of it. But because that's not real, it axiomatically also produces miseries. So rag means attachment to enjoying, and dvesh means the aversion to suffering. But remember, suffering is not really in the Atma. So all of this is going on under the auspices of false egoism. You understand? But then the last feature of avidya is called abhinivesh. Abhinivesh means an inextricable absorption in this idea that cannot be broken by the jiva. In the verse that I quoted earlier from the 11th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, Anadya vidya yuktasha purushasha vedatmanam swato na sambhavanti anya. So swato means yourself. Swato na sambhavanti. You don't have power or the ability to break this absorption in the material energy of your own accord. Therefore, anya, it requires another. Gyanatva ganado bhavet. This description is description of Sadhu Guru. He's Gyanatva, means he has transcendental realization of his own nature, and by his harikatha, by his instructions, by his association, one can garner the influence of the spiritual energy to realize their own spiritual nature. And generally the sadhu means also compassionate. So Ganadha means they have the nature of Karun Shakti, the merciful dispensation to give this knowledge to others. And this is the only way to break the abhinavesh of the material energy. Right? Symptom of the breaking of this absorption in the material energy, and hence absorption in the idea of being the body, is symptomized by Sava Sangamena Ratnya Ankor Rupa Eva Mati. So in this long little verse here, Mati is the key word. Mati means discrimination. Sometimes in Sanskrit it's also called Vivek. Right? Like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote a whole book, Bhakti Tattva Vivek. Right? So Vivek or Mati means the ability to get the epiphany there's something else besides this material world. That's the inspiration being demonstrated by Srila Sanatana Goswami Pad in asking his questions to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When that arises in any jiva, that position is called mati. But it cannot come unless there's the influence or direct association of a sadhu. Therefore, our Srila Prabhupada, my Guru Pada Padma as well, they all gave very much emphasis to being merciful enough to go out and do Harinam, distribute books, distribute prasadam, invite people to the temple, etc. Because all of these activities give what is called Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti. The word Unmukh means to turn towards God. This is the meaning of the word Unmukh, to turn towards God. But in order to do that, one is that the absorption in the idea I am this material body and identity has to be broken. Because I explained already what is abhinavesh, the vicarious identification that is has us bound inextricably right to it. And the only way to break it is through the influence of a sadhu. What is it that the sadhu gives? In their Harikatha, Srila Prabhupada's books, or the books of our acharyas, what is it that's being given? It is called Shraddha. Therefore, our acharyas have said, first, Ado Shraddha. First there must be faith. And this faith works in different divisions. I'm not explaining all here, but it's all there in Ujjalu, not Ujjalamani, but in Madhurya Kandamini. Grantha of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. All of these things are there. So Adho Shraddha. First, there's some contact due to Bhakti Unmukhi Sukritis with Shraddha emanating from a sadhu. Right? So that first emanation will be simply the influence that stimulates connection with the Bhakti Unmukhi Sukritis and has the ability to give rise to Mati. That epiphany, what is this? This material world cannot be the all in all. What exists beyond this body? What is there after death, if anything? And all these kind of questions arise in that state of Mati. Understand? Then by the influence of the Shraddha Shakti, coming from the Prabhav, means influence of a sadhu or the association of a sadhu, directly or indirectly, Shraddha has a unique power. Shraddha Anuparni Varajam Bhakti Unmukhi Chitta Vritti Vishesh. Shraddha has this, Vishesh means special quality, that it can not only break the Abhinavesh or inextricable absorption in matter, this material body, but it turns the functions of the Chitta, means the subtle body, towards Bhagavan. Now once you turn towards Bhagavan, there's this huge path. Now, will I walk that path? You understand? This is also a very delicate position, because at the time that one turns towards the path of spirituality, the floodgates of many paths also flow into that. What about this path? What about that path? What about this path? So the strength of the Bhakti Unmukhi Sukritis determines the ability of a person at what time and what period they can take up the path of Sudha Bhakti. Understand? First, they may be influenced by the idea of simply trying to, what they could not accomplish in the material arena of being the doer, they transfer that into the spiritual arena, and I will meditate, I will practice this modality, that modality, and I will become enlightened and happy that way. So still the sense of egoism, false egoism of being the doer, and hence the bhokta, enjoyer of the result, is still present. So only when that bhokta abhiman, means the conception of being the enjoyer because I'm the cause and doer, only when that is broken can the nature of walking the path of Sudha Bhakti really truly begin. Therefore the first anga of Bhakti is called Guru Pad Asraya. Similarly, Prahlad Maharaj told to practice the 9 angas of Bhakti like Shravan, Kirtan, Vishnu Smaran, etc. Iti Pums Arprita Vishnu Bhaktas Chinnavalakshan. One has to do Pums Arprita, means Saranagati. Similarly, Rupa Goswami wrote the very first of the 64 practices in Bhakti, Guru Pad Asraya. It also means Saranagati. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is writing, Diksha Kale Bhakta Gone Atma Samarpan. One has to do Atma Samarpan, Saranagati. So what is Saranagati? Anukul Yasha Sankalpa, Pratikul Yasha Vivajanam. The first two things are a desire. It's not necessarily the action. It's the desire to do everything favorable for the service of Krishna and to reject those things which are unfavorable to the service of Krishna. Those are the first two elements. The second two elements kind of codify how that can happen. Rakshashati Vishwas. You understand? Rakshashati Vishwas Goptrave Varanam Tata. Raksha means to protect. So here it says Rakshati Vishwas. A Vishwas means a firm conviction, faith, belief, trust. So a trust that Sri Krishna is protecting not so much my material body, my material aspirations, my material goals, my material conceptions, but Krishna is the protector on the path of bhakti. Rakshishiti Vishwas. To have, Vishwas means, like I said, in Sanskrit it translates as trust, conviction, etc. But the word swas also means to breathe. So a kind of conviction in this fact that Krishna is my protector, that in my pursuit of bhakti, everything that's needed to protect and nourish that will be coming from Bhagavan, more particularly through the agency of Guru, who Sakshaharitva means he's directly the agency of Bhagavan in my purview, right? That faith that all protection on this path will come through that agency of Sri Guru, right? This is called Vishwas. The kind of trust you have that Swas, I will take my next breath, because it's not guaranteed. But we put a faith. Yes, I will plan to have dinner this evening. I will plan to do this. I will plan to do that savor, this savor. It's because we have faith, trust. I'll take the next breath. Having that kind of faith that Bhagavan is my protector, nourisher, guide, and has appeared in the form of Sri Guru, that kind of faith, right, Vishwas, is what is called the second part of Saranagati. And therefore, Goptrave Varanam Tata, acceptance that Bhagavan is also maintaining everything I need to accomplish bhakti. That everything within the purview of my practice of bhakti is all I need to accomplish the goal, the sajja of bhakti, which is to obtain bhav. Everything is already there. I don't need to look to the demigods. I don't need to look to new age modalities. I don't need to look this way or that way. The full vishwas that everything is present in bhakti. And then Atmanikshep Karpanya, to be extremely humble. Chenarapi sunichena tarorapi eva saishnuna amanina manadena kitniya sadhari. The pradhan practice means the root practice of bhakti is Harinam. And Mahaprabhu is giving the secrets to practicing Harinam. So he says, Chenarapi sunich, that one should consider oneself lower than grass. There are many Harikatha that's given on how to understand this teaching, being lower than a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree. Because certainly in the path, there's going to be so many peaks and valleys. This requires great tolerance. There'll still be interaction with others. That also requires tolerance. But it requires tolerance based in Trenadapi Sunich. Considering myself very lowly, then my tolerance is not, I'm putting up with this person or that person. My tolerance is of my own egoism trying to rise when I have to deal with something that doesn't seem palatable in relation to others or circumstances, etc. So, Trenadapi Sunich and Taror Eva Saishnuna go together. You understand? And the power to do all of these things, Anukuyasha Sankal, Pratikuyasha Vivajanam, and also to be Atmanikshep Kalpanya, humble, all is coming from the Vishwas that Krishna is the power that's accomplishing all these things through the agency of Guru and Sadhu. Understand? So this is called Saranagati. You understand? And this is the very first anga of bhakti. Until a person becomes Saranagat, it is very difficult, even though we use the term often, to realize you're not the body. Until there's Saranagati, it is very difficult to realize that. Because the very basis of our survival in the material world is based in the conception of that body. The ahamkara, the man and buddhi, intelligence and mind associated with the ahamkara, and the particular upadi we have. I've already explained upadi before, the particular designation in any karmic iteration we're in, right? That unique identity with those parents, that culture, that country, that all of that lines up. The upadi from asmita, the upadi, then the ahamkara, you understand? And then the self-conception born from that. That will not leave you until there is Saranagati. In Saranagati, what happens is explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I quoted the first part of this verse. Diksha kale bhaktagone atma samarpan. At the time of giving diksha, right, if that devotee in receiving the diksha is Saranagat, se kale Krishna tare kare atma sam. At that time, Krishna, through the potency coming through Guru Parampara, through Guru, makes that devotee Atma Sam. It means it imbues them with Swarup Shakti. Now this Swarup Shakti will come in incremental stages. From Shraddha Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya, Anartana Vritti, Nishta Ruchi, Asakti to Bhav. And then in Bhav, one will practice in Bhav Avas, means in the consciousness of Bhav. And then after giving up this body, one will go to wherever Krishna is performing his Prakat Leela, and one will receive a Vastu body, means a body composed actually of Swarup Shakti. And there one will undertake Anugatya of any Nitya associates of Bhagavan in the particular mood for which they have developed attraction. You understand? And they'll receive training there. And then in Nitya Gokul or Nitya Golok Dham, they can eternally express that particular reality. You understand? So this is how the Swarup Shakti unfolds in incremental stages of what I was just describing. But there can't be any realization of that until one, there is a constitutional acceptance of identity as Krishna Das. And there are many things that we do throughout the day to reaffirm that. When you get up in the morning, you say, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, whatever your Guru Pranam is, you understand? But the very first word is Namaha. Namaha means affirmation of Na Aham Mameti. I'm not this false egoism. Na Aham Mameti. Not I and mine, you understand? But it then indicates if there's not I and mine, the only thing that's left is I am Bhagavan's. Therefore, Dasitva is the organic growth of the affirmation Namaha. Na-aham mameti gives rise to the reality that I am constitutionally the Das of Krishna. But the speciality is that the Diksha received from Gurudev, which is why I quoted that verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, is because generically being the Das of Krishna is not a particular relationship with Krishna. Just like if you meet someone and you introduce yourself, hello, my name is Jane, and the person says, hi, I'm human being, we would think that to be a little bit strange. Constitutionally, hopefully, we're all human beings. Of course, there's 400 different categories of human beings and very many nuances within that. But just in a general sense, right, if somebody in common parlance introduced themselves, hi, I'm human being, right? Either we think there's something quirky about that or it's some particularly unique thing or something, but it means the explanation of a generic status. All of us are human beings, but we don't all have relationship with each other in a specific way. That somebody's a human being doesn't mean they're your husband or your wife or your son or your daughter. So in the same way, having a generic idea, I'm Das of Krishna, is not in itself a relationship with Krishna. So what happens at the time of Diksha is Divya Gyanam Yanta Shrimanti Mantre Bhagavat Swarup Dhanam Gena Bhagavat Sambandha Visesh Gyanamscha. Sri Guru at that time, after having given you Nam, because Nam is Radha and Krishna themselves. So according to maturation in Adhikar, one has some realization of that. But then in the time of Diksha, when a devotee Sadhanagat, Gurudev gives then the Visesh Sambandha Gyan. What specially is your relationship to Krishna? How does Guru know? Just like it is not an accident what karmic portfolio you have in one life to another, it is not an accident whom ends up being your Guru. Chakudan dilo ye janami janami Prabhu say, you are my Lord birth after birth. Not first life, this was my Guru. That's why Guru Tattva is a very important thing. And that's why it's also very important to not try to institutionalize Guruship or institutionalize Guru Tattva. Because the reality, Rupa Goswami has also explained, Praptanaka Aduni Chasti Yat Sat Bhakti Vasana. We also have previous Bhakti Sanskars. And those sanskars are the things that lead you to the lotus feet of seeing your Guru again in a particular life. So when you're able to identify your Guru in that particular life is a very amazing and wonderful and very deep thing, because Sri Guru and Sishya is the only actual relationship of love in the material arena. Now, devotees in their relationships, it is called Priti Lakshan. Rupa Goswami told in Upadeshamrita, adadati pratagrinati guyamakyati pritchati bhunkte bojayate eva bhunkte bojayate chaiva sadvidam pritti lakshanam. It has the lakshana of pritti because Krishna is in the center of it. But the actual Guru-Sishya relationship, because Guru is Sakshararitva, because Kintu Prabhuya Privatasya, he's the very dear eternal associate of Radha Krishna. And therefore, he can unconditionally bestow love and can give you the power to unconditionally reciprocate it. Therefore, this is the first relationship of love. So this is a very, very powerful and important reality. And it is Guru who gives the particular nature of dasatva you have in relation to Krishna. Is it dasatva of Vaikuntha Pati Narayan? Is it dasatva of Ramchandraji? Is it dasatva of Narasimhadev? Is it dasatva of Krishna? And is it dasatva of Krishna in Dwarka? Dasatva of Krishna in Braj? And more even, is it dasatva of Srimati Radhika primarily? You understand? All these things are the specificity given by Sri Guru at the time of Diksha. But if the disciple is not Saranagat, if the Bhakti Samskars have not matured, then at the time of Diksha one cannot reconcile the epiphany or realization coming in the Diksha mantras of that identity, and therefore it becomes again more difficult to break the conception of being the body. Rather, what happens is one continues practicing in bhakti, carrying that material conception. This is called prakrita bhakti, material form of bhakti. Srila Prabhupada wrote, devotee can practice bhakti in 81 different varieties of the modes of nature. How? There are 9 types of bhakti, from Shravan, Kirtan, Vishnu Smarana, Parasevanam, Archanam, Vandam, Dasa Shakyam, Atma Nivedanam. And there are 3 modes of material nature. But the 3 modes of material nature do never act in one steady fashion. They're always mixing. So 3 times 3 is 9. So 3 times 3 different mutations of the modes of nature is 9. 9 processes of bhakti, 9 times 9 is 81. So as long as one is practicing prakrita bhakti, then 81 different varieties of the modes of nature are still imbued in that practice. How do we practice our prakrita bhakti? Only when you're situated in true sambandha gyan. What is my spiritual identity? And if you simply repeat, I'm not the body, I'm not the body, I'm not the body, that will not give you revelation of that reality. Simply saying I'm not the body will not do that. It requires the ability to digest what is coming from Sri Guru and Sadhus. Satam prasangam mamaveya samvido bhavanti rit karana rasanaya katha ta josar asu apavagavatmani shraddha bhakti shraddha bhakti anukramishati. Understand? So what happens is that when you're in the association of Guru Sadhu, it should be prasanga. It will become the word pra means prakushrupain or complete, absolute. So to make your association with the sadhu absolute, it requires to be in a position of being saranagat. I'm not this body because I am not the false egoism. Right? Because the material body is only connected to the subtle body. So it's not that the material body is the thing, it's the subtle body that's the challenge. Because the subtle body is holding the conception, I am this physical combination of elements and so forth. So that subtle body has to be purified. Jiva Goswami wrote in Bhakti Sandarbha, Pratamam Namnaha Shravanam Sudha Antakaram Artha Apeksham. By chanting Harinam, we purify the Antakara, means the subtle body. You understand? Then when that's becoming purified, then when we receive Diksha mantras, the epiphany of the actuality of Diksha takes place in the consciousness and reveals the specificity of the dasatva one has with Krishna. You understand? When there is that epiphany, that understanding, and one thing also that I've spoken a lot in traveling and preaching is that in doing bhajan practice, we cannot impose on bhakti. Oh, I'm very fallen. Right? Because actually, in truth, that realization is not there. It is called Dainya Bhav. Dainya Bhav means the realization I am fallen, or Dainya Bhav also synonym for humility. The reality of humility in the earlier stage of practice is simply adherence to the etiquette and Vaishnav Sadachar, proper Vaishnav behavior. Because the true Sanchari Bhav of humility, called Dainya Bhav, has not arisen yet, because it arises in the state of being Krishna conscious. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami is quoted there, Paripokena Dainasya Krishna Prema Ajasanvitanyate. That Dainya Bhav arises in proportion to Krishna consciousness. Parasparam means they're mutually nourishing to each other. You understand? So now, in the practice of bhakti, one should not try to impose, nor should one try to repose. So what does imposition mean? To forcibly try to then, through kalpana or imagination, imprint things onto the practice. Yes, I am a cowherd boy. Yes, I am a manjari. Yes, I'm like this, I'm like that. So don't by kalpana try to impose. You understand? Bhakti itself is revelatory in nature. And if you're practicing properly, revelation will come. When revelation comes, one should keep it in the Hridoya Mandir. Means in the heart. You should not speak it out from your mouth except to Shri Guru. Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru, you can speak. And then Guru can do Ruchi Pariksha, really examine your Ruchi. Yes, this is truly on the right path. But ordinarily you're not speaking these things. Oh yes, I'm realizing this and that. Right? Because what is attached to that then becomes the ahamkara, false egoism, and it becomes another designation within false egoism. And it gives rise to what is called prakrita sahajavad. Prakrita means material conception of relation to spiritual reality. Material imposition on spirituality is called prakrita sahajavad. Understand? Also, don't repose. Well, I can't be having this kind of realization because I'm too fallen. You should be sakshi, be a witness to bhakti. Be saranagit, be in the position of a witness, do your duty, because your practice is your invocation and plea for bhakti to show you mercy. When bhakti shows you mercy, Gurudev, Mahaprabhu, Shri Radhakrishna, so merciful. Put in your Hridoya Mandir and take nourishment from that in the various stages, from Shraddha all the way up to Bhav. Take nourishment from that. Understand? So my overarching point here was that simply the idea you're not the body and simply repetition of you're not the body, implementing you're not the body as the standard response to every single thing, right? It will not make you not the body. You'll have to understand within the context of the practice how you're not the body. And how will you have darshan of these things? Shruta ikshita pat, on the path of hearing. Shruta ikshita means to see through hearing. So we will not be always looking, oh, where's Krishna? I didn't hear any ankle bells. So we won't be looking for sensory perception of an experience. We should be looking for revelation coming from a digested, heard experience. So the earlier verse I was quoting, Satam Prasanga, Mama Virya Samvido. Samvad means, Samvad is like Ramananda Samvad. Sam means complete. Vad means a complete conception being transmitted is called Samvad. Like Narvya Samvad, Ramananda Samvad, also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya Samvad. You understand? Where complete conception is being exchanged. So, when the sadhu, satam, right, is a person who has some realization, and the hearer is saranagit, it creates prasanga. Then when there's prasanga, it is like a conduit or portal in which Mama Virya, Krishna is saying, my own Shakti, my own power, descends through that portal. So in that samvad, by the sadhu, my Shakti, Mama Virya, descends. And therefore, Bhavanti Rit Karana Rasanayakata. The second line is also interesting. Bhavanti, it manifests Rit in the heart. So this means it's a revelation. You understand? It's not the gathering of information, it's a revelation. Bhavanti rit karana rasanaya kata. When it enters the heart, it gives rise to the epiphany, which is the form of bhakti. Harikatha is the sarup of Harinam. So that sarup of Krishna in the form of Harikatha gives epiphany in the heart, and it becomes pleasing to the ear. So it doesn't enter the ear and go to the heart. It goes to the heart, then manifests as pleasing to the ear. You understand the difference? Prahlad Maharaj heard in the womb of Kayadu. So in the womb, how will you hear? Is it through digestion of the ear? It is through the heart. It penetrated the womb of Kayadu and went into the heart of Prahlad. Nardas Samvad to Prahlad in the womb of Kayadu. So Bhavanti Rit Gananarsanaya Kata. So the rasa in that becomes the stimulus for realizing the Ananda principle in the spiritual paradigm. You understand? And this is what progressively drives your bhajan life forward. You understand? And it's acting also as rasayan. Rasayan means medicine. To continue the purification of the vestiges of ahamkar, etc., that are still present. I'm giving one example. I was sick at one point. This was COVID or something that comes. Everybody catches these things from time to time. But I went to the doctor. The doctor said, okay, you have to take one antibiotic. So I'm very famous for not wanting to take anything, any kind of medicine, pills, anything, except my organic protocols, that we take. But medicines and stuff I don't like taking. So my wife is a medical professional. She's a dentist by profession, right? She's retired. But she knows medicine and so forth. So I would always take those antibiotics until I felt a little better. But the secret in an antibiotic is that you don't take it just until the symptoms stop, but you have to take the course of the antibiotic because there's residue of whatever the sickness is still there. And by following the instructions to take the full course of the antibiotic is what ends up destroying the residue of that illness. You understand? So my wife would always get on my case because she would find 2 or 3 of whatever it was I was supposed to be taking left. So, she told you have to stop this because what will happen is that the residue will then regenerate. And that's problematic. So you want to take the full course and make sure the residue is killed off, right? For lack of a better word. So in the same way, in our practice, we want to keep the nourishment of hearing Harikatha, being in the association of sadhus, and doing seva and doing bhajan practice. Because if you're in association with sadhu and you hear so much but you don't apply it, it's like me not taking the antibiotic. You understand? So then it will not kill off the residue of the abhiman coming from ahamkar. And if you don't kill off that abhiman coming from ahamkar, you can never not realize you're the body. The ahamkar is particularly there to reaffirm I am the body. Because we, by nature, we are crave existence. The nature of the Atma Sat means existing, and they're cognizant, this means chit, and Ananda I described earlier. Ananda is the absence of misery, and Rasam Eva Labdhananda Bhavati, the potentiality of growing in bliss to unlimited degrees. But in the Atma, prior to the descent of Swarup Shakti, it only operates as the absence of misery. You understand? So, we crave existence because we are by nature Sat. So, our only existence that we've known from time without beginning has connection with this false egoism. Asmita, ahamkara, and upadis. In one karmic iteration after another. So that ahamkara will not die easily. And the only way it can truly be replaced is if the reality of the identity you have spiritually is present. In the presence of that spiritual identity, the false identity can recede. Other than that, to protect the consciousness of existing, ahamkara will maintain itself. Because it won't digest the idea you're nothing. Therefore, even the fear of death is a reaction of ahamkara to the idea of not existing. That's what the fear of death is. It's the reactionary principle in the ahamkara that says, I want to exist. So only when you are established also in your eternal identity can the fear of death also be gone. Understand? Because then there's knowledge, not just of your eternality, but you're operating in the internal reality of an identity. In another video, perhaps I will describe, I know at our Bhakti Intensive, we're going to go into detail of what is Sambandha Gyan, because how to understand in growing increments what is your spiritual identity, that has to be understood. Because again, other than that, then imagination will be put in, and if you try to put imagination in, it is coming from false ego, so it's a false sense of who you are. If you want the real identity, it will have to be born from understanding of what is your diksha and how it grows from conception to application to the awareness, and from awareness it grows into actuality. You understand? These things we'll discuss at the intensive. I'm trying to see if it'll be recorded. One devotee's doing on a special platform called O Connect. I don't know that much about it, but he's going to do it on that platform. I would imagine you have to get the O Connect. I'm not sure how that works either. I may also try to do on Facebook like this. Problem here is that sometimes the length of the class may be too much, or something may happen, and so forth and so on. Anyway, we'll have to see. So it's in June that the intensive, Bhakti Intensive is coming up, and we'll have some discussion on these things. But I wanted to answer this devotee's question for one, or his writing, about the idea of the common parlance in Vaishnava Mandal of you're not the body, and how to make that a more realistic statement. And without understanding, I don't know how it would be possible. Right? You can't just keep saying, I'm not the body, I'm not the body. Or if you're hearing Harikatha, sometimes that even gets weaponized. Right? Somebody will ask a question regarding further development in bhakti, and they'll say, first try to realize you're not the body. Well, the answer to that question is what will help them realize they're not the body. So, I spoke on this the other day too, keeping a culture of inquiry versus a cult of compliance. Because if you don't explain things, if you don't first yourself understand what has been given by Guru and our Guru Parampara and our previous acharyas, if you yourself are not clear on it, and I'm always asking questions to my seniors to get clarification or get correction, right? So, if you don't do this, first of all, you're missing a big part of bhakti, right? Which is called pariprishna. The ability to make inquiry and get those inquiries sufficiently dealt with. You understand? If you don't do that, then what will happen is that in the cult of compliance, where people are afraid to ask questions, and there are people who can't answer the questions, what begins to happen is automatically, because we're practicing something and we want to unfold, the ahamkar will automatically, by default, start giving impressions coming from imagination about these things. And then 5 kinds of corrupted knowledge will come about. My Guru Bhai Prem Prabhu, he wrote a very nice book called Gaudiya. He didn't write the book, he translated the book of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur called Gaudiya Darshan. Very highly recommended, because he gives good explanation of the different kinds of corrupted knowledge, like Prayasthana Gyan, Sankirna Gyan, Vivarta Grasta Gyan. So, anyway, you can try to see if you can find this book. It may be online and so forth. But also, in our Gaudiya theology in general, this idea is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has also dealt with this. Different kinds of corruption in the reception of knowledge. You understand? So, point being, try to be in good sadhu sangha and to hear these things continually, because one meaning of sadhu sangha means, or anugatya means, anu means continuously. So being continuously in that association, and also following. Anu also means to follow. So by behavior following it, and also anu means anutva, or humility, with great humility. All right, I do have some other services to perform here. So I'm offering my Dandavat Pranam to all the devotees. Vancha Kalpataruvishcha, Kripashinduvevacha, Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. Jai Radhe Radhe.